Welcome to the Starting Over Stronger show, where you'll find help and hope for your divorce survival and recovery. Divorce well, live well.
Hey guys, welcome back to Starting Over Stronger, Divorce Survival and Recovery. Today we have another S.O.S, Survivor's Own Story, and today's guest is Erica Keese. She is a divorce survivor and much more. I'm going to let her tell you first about herself, and then we will dive into her divorce survival and recovery story. Hello and welcome, Erica. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, yes, Erica here. Thanks for having me on. I am divorced, a single mom of a soon-to-be 8-year-old daughter, Lily. I live in Overland Park, Kansas here, and we enjoy anything outdoors. I love being at the lake, camping, swimming, boating, really anything. So
Awesome.
That's a little bit about me.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here to share your story with us. Listeners, I first met Erica through real estate networking last year, and more recently, she won a ladies' luncheon date to powwow about women telling their divorce stories. And Erica's story caught my attention. I don't want to give away any of it, so I'm just going to invite Erica now to just start wherever she would like and tell us as much as she's comfortable with about her divorce survival and her life since. So what was divorce like for you, Erica?
Okay. Well, so just to give you a little backstory on our relationship, my husband, I actually met him when I was in 9th grade. We went to school together, hung around the same group of people. If you would have told me then that I would have married him, I would have fell off my chair laughing because just did not see that coming out of anywhere. So, knew him back then, went our separate ways. I lived in several different states. I ended up moving back to Kansas City when I was about 25 ish, around there. And reconnected with some old high school friends. My husband was in that group of friends, so we met through there, kind of connected over past, I would say, like trauma and just things that happened in our high school years. So that was something that kind of connected us together. Long story short, kind of become just started friends, hanging out every day, moved to dating. Dated for a couple of years and then decided to get married. And I would say we got married pretty quickly. I actually needed health insurance at the time, and we knew we were going to get married, but we got married sooner because of that situation. So we got a wedding together, had a really cute picnic wedding. Got married on a Tuesday, and then took off for a week, went camping, and that was the start of our marriage. So,
how long were you married, by the way?
A total, from divorce being finalized, 8 years.
Okay.
About 8 years.
Okay.
When what I consider marriage, in the time that we were actively married, that would be about 5 years, I would say.
Okay.
So
it sounds like there's a story there.
yeah, there is. So, kind of as far as our relationship goes, 6 months after getting married, had my daughter. From then, I feel like we started growing apart. From then, separate bedrooms, due to snoring and having a baby and that kind of thing. So that just got us started. Sleeping in separate bedrooms, kind of, like I said, just drifting apart, leading a separate life. I think that my husband loved and currently loved my daughter more than me in the marriage. And not that that's a bad thing, but a marriage doesn't work if you guys don't put yourselves first. So with that being said, and I love that. I'm actually okay to say that, because the fact there's a lot of kids out there that don't have parents that, a father doesn't love them, or a mother, either way, in there. So to know that he loved her that much, I feel good about that as far as that goes. Like I said, just kind of drifted apart from there. I would say nothing really major happened that led to our divorce. I think we just started drifting. I got into a lot of personal development through my work and different networking groups that I was around, and really started focusing on myself and growing. And we grew apart in our different ways. Initially, it kind of got to the point where I felt like I was a single mom living in my marriage. My husband would come home from work and just relax on the couch, and I was very active in the things that I did and just kind of wasn't present, kind of tired from work and drained, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so lived my life as a single mom while married. We did not have sex throughout our marriage, maybe 5 times in the whole time we were married.
Oh my goodness.
So that was not there at all.
What was the point where you kind of just knew that it was over and something had to change?
I would say a year before I split and left, I feel like, you see that meme on Facebook of the squirrel and it couldn't figure out whether he was going right or left and he got run over.
Mm-hmm.
Every day I was in this, it was like one day it was, okay, I'm going to stay in this. We're going to go to counseling. The next day it was like, I'm done. The next day, okay, I'm in this. And it was like every day for a year trying to decide what I should do. And I was finally like, I have to make a decision because I can't sit here in limbo or I'm going to get run over like that squirrel, trying to figure out if he's going to go right or left to avoid the car, kind of thing. And so I just did. I got a lease on an apartment and I said, I'm moving out. And I did. I left pretty much everything there. I moved into an apartment right across the street, really small, 1 bedroom, and I went to work.
What was his response?
He at that time wanted it to happen, but I mean, I was just kind of done, so I made my decision.
Yeah.
And gosh, I mean, I don't think it was terrible. I mean, we just kind of, it just was that. There wasn't any coming back.
Yeah, just is what it is, kind of a thing.
On my side. So I knew there was no going back. I think maybe he had hoped there might be at some point. So we just made things work. From the time that I left him, we were separated about 2.5 years before I filed for a divorce. We got along okay enough to where I needed my health insurance still. And, we were kind of in a place where like, hey, I'm not dating, you're not dating, we'll just stay together for now until one of us has a reason to get us divorced.
Yeah.
Because we got along okay. He went a different direction with his personal choices and had issues with depression, substance abuse, things like that, which led to me having my daughter full time. So I've had her the past few years full time.
Well, so you talked about a 2.5-year separation. So you were just maybe trying to figure out if for sure divorce was what you wanted, or it just made sense to just leave the legal aspect of marriage in place until there was a reason not to.
Right. It wasn't because we were going to get back together. It was just kind of like benefits of being married, his income, just things like that, right. Legally we were like, okay, why involve courts and go through all this stuff? We'll just wait till, if I meet somebody, then I'll get a divorce or, that kind of thing. But
right. So it must have been fairly amicable to be able to work all that out.
To some extent. Yeah.
Okay. Both of you being mature.
Right. And I feel like it was really hard for me to make the decision to get a divorce because like I said, I feel like there wasn't like some big thing that happened where I was like, I'm divorcing you, and so it was kind of like just that gradually growing apart. And now I see like just little things maybe that make sense now to where I was like, oh, we should have talked about this more. Had we not spent the nights apart from when we initially had our child, would that have worked out better? Whatever. I can't go back in time and change any of that. And so I think that was hard for me to even get to the point of divorce was because of that. Then once I made that decision, it was kind of like, okay, now I'm free. I can still I started dating, things like that. Because I knew that I was over, and I was over a long time ago before I left. So there was no grievance on as far as that goes. I mean, I will say moving over, I was really sad, and just because that was a huge change. So I think I cried every single day in February, the month that I moved into my apartment, and it was just grieving. It wasn't from just a natural change of everything going on. So
But how long has that been since that happened?
Oh gosh. So that was now about 3 years ago.
Okay.
That was
so how
about
long
3
did your
years ago.
divorce take?
A year. It took I filed in January of 19 and it was over by December of 19. My ex again had depression issues and things like that. So he was in rehabs and things. So it took longer for our divorce if he was not present there. But once I found out some personal things, I decided that I just need to cut my ties in all sort of ways. And so that's what led me to finally filing for the divorce and getting it done. Since then, things have been great.
Well, that's good. So what was the divorce process like for you? Was it just lengthy because, like you said, there was hindrances, but how were you processing all of it? Was it just a formality at this point?
Yeah. For me, it was. I just, let my lawyer handle it. Luckily, I got my car out of our joint name prior to moving. We didn't have any houses together. We didn't have anything like that. So there was no property or anything to split up. It was literally just waiting for him to take the parenting class or respond to a letter or, those types of things.
So there wasn't even like a big custody battle because he wasn't in a place where he could.
Yeah.
Okay.
And still is not. We do have every other weekend custody, but because of the issues going on, it's kind of, hey, you can have her now, watch her now. It's pretty, it's okay, actually. There's no schedule for him because he still has difficulty, with things. So,
but you guys are coping well with that arrangement?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
well, is there anything else that you wanted to share about it?
I think that's basically it.
Okay. Well, we're going to get into more about your daughter for sure, because today's topic is raising resilient kids no matter what. And so, first of all, thank you so much for sharing that. Divorce stories have this wonderful way of being the exact same for everyone in some ways, and yet remarkably different in many other ways. So I'm certain that many of our listeners can relate to at least some of what you shared, if not all of it. And the reason that I invite women onto the show to share their stories is because of how powerfully it affects each of us to hear other people's stories and to know that we're not alone in these things. So, having heard your story previous to today, what caught my heart as you shared was how you raised your daughter so resiliently through it all. And so that's what I really wanted to explore with you today. So again, my opinion, you've done a great job of achieving this kind of resilience for your daughter, Lily. And so I would like to just ask you some questions just centered around some of the psychological effects of divorce on kids, and just invite you to share how you see these issues and even how you may have handled these different issues with your daughter. Does that sound good?
Yep, that sounds perfect.
Okay. So first of all, we all know that co-parenting is the hardest and most important part of life with kids after divorce. And hopefully that begins as soon as the divorce is decided on, if not sooner, so that kids aren't exposed to intense conflict between their parents. This is incredibly stressful for children. Overt and covert hostility are both felt by the kids, even when they seem like they're fine. And so let's just talk a little bit about how you approached this from the very beginning and all the way through the divorce, including how you deal with it now. I know that we've already kind of talked about the fact that you have a more unique situation because you guys aren't, I don't want to say you're not co-parenting, but you're not as much so as some are, with custody battles and, splitting these schedules and trying to figure out 50-50 and, all of these things. Certainly we can hear already that there are some differences with the way that, you two are handling co-parenting of Lily. So if nothing else, just talk about how you wanted to approach co-parenting with him and what has been working and why.
So initially, when we were sitting down for the divorce and going through the parenting plan on paper, we put down, agreed on holidays, agreed on every other weekends and that sort of thing. My ex has a lot of personal issues going on in his life that doesn't allow that to actually happen right now. Okay. So when he is well, when he is capable and able, I let her go over there whenever she wants. She loves her dad. He loves her. there is nothing, as long as he's well and capable of taking care of her and making sure all of her needs are met, she could be over there all the time. I would not have any problem with that. I love that she has a love for her dad. So
yeah, for
nothing
sure.
there.
Okay. Right. No, I get it. And, you know, really the whole co-parenting question with regard to how it affects the kids is about it being peaceful. And so, you know, as much as it is possible, it sounds like it is, you know, you guys are working through things, even though you've got these other hurdles, you are peacefully co-parenting, you know, as best as you can. So
I would say so. And it just makes more sense for her to be with me during the week because of school, and I can meet those needs for her. So that's just how it works out. Okay. So
awesome. That's a great answer. And, you know, another facet of the peaceful co-parenting is not putting the kids in the middle. And of course, it's hopefully obvious that we would never ask a child which parent they like better, even covertly. Would you rather go to the park with me or stay at your dad's house? You know, it's unfair and it's hurtful. And other ways that this comes out is even with older kids and teens being asked to like pass messages back and forth, or being asked what's going on at the other parent's house, like just trying to get intel on the ex, and parentifying kids by asking them to make choices about things that the parents should be deciding. So
and that sounds horrible. And I'm so thankful that actually that's making me feel better about this. Because I'm like, wow, I didn't know all that. I mean, believe me,
it happens all the time.
Stuff, but you know, that's good to hear, because there's not that. And I think I have tried my hardest to never really say anything in front of her. I'm human, and she's heard things, I'm sure, conversations that maybe she shouldn't have or something for a child being that young age, but nothing that is like shaming her father or anything kind of like that, just to where, you know, she's 7. So you know that, but
well, that's good, because that's one of the leading causes of depression and anxiety in kids. So, you know, I'm so glad to hear that you haven't experienced that.
I remember I was saying something one time, and I don't remember I was talking about, and Lily said to me in the kitchen, she goes, you know, Dad still is a good person. And I said, you know, you're right. She sees that. We have conversations, and we're open, and we talk about a lot of things. So
that's awesome.
That's been really great as well on getting through this, is that I talk to her about things that are going on as much as, you know, somebody her age should know.
Right.
And that sort of thing. But
yeah. Well, that's great. You're focusing on the positive, and that's kind of what I want to do right now, is just talk about maintaining positive and healthy relationships with the kids. So no matter what is happening between you and the child's other parent, the objective should be to focus yourself on your relationship with each child, on having positive and warm communication and connection with each child, keeping conflict at bay by listening to everything they have to share, accepting that they have feelings that may be different than yours, and showing compassion for that, and guiding them gently away from problem behaviors by focusing on the feelings that they might have behind those behaviors, and giving them permission to feel whatever they need to feel without shame and judgment. This is what I always refer to as teaching emotional intelligence. And on a side note, boys need it just as much as girls. I see it over and over and over again, where I know well-intentioned and well-meaning women are silencing their sons' emotions. And this is why we have men who don't know how to have a conversation, who don't know how to talk about their feelings. This starts when they're young. And this kind of parenting is, you know, divorce or not, is shown to help children cope and to be able to adjust to the problems of life better, including improving their sleep, their academic performance, and their self-worth. So, you know, it's very, very important to have a solid, warm, and positive communication and connection with each child. So that, again, like I said earlier, that really is what I picked up on as you shared your story with me when we met. And so I just want you to talk a little bit about your experience with teaching emotional intelligence to your daughter.
Yeah. Well, I would say I've just always, from the start of being a parent, talked to her like an adult. I guess I never talked to her like a child, so to speak. In there, I've always since she's been around, been in the into personal development. I've done a lot of coaching, things like that. And she's grown up watching me do these things and being a part of meetings that I've gone to. And I think hearing things that most kids and a ton of adults aren't even exposed to. And I think that her just hearing that, seeing that, leading from example, being open to her, open with her, talking about my feelings, letting her know that, you know, it's okay to tell me whatever, and there is no judgment, and even letting her know that she can talk to other people if she doesn't want to talk to me about things, and that it's important to get those things out. Otherwise, it will just destroy you in there. So I try and be really open to her about everything, and we have unique conversations daily about those things, about our feelings and thoughts, and that things can happen, and that doesn't have to dictate how our day goes, and we get to create the thoughts around those circumstances that create our feelings, that change our day. So things like in the morning, just saying, hey, you know, I'm going to have a great day, and, you know, speaking out those things. And so just, that's just a lot of our stuff. So I think that helps communication, being open, letting her know that it's okay to be human. It's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. You just need to share those because, you know, the world isn't mind readers, and we can't help you if you don't let me know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's great. I loved what you said about, you know, really, you're just not going to speak down to her as if she's beneath you. You're fostering a respectful relationship, treating her the way you would want to be treated. And that's really, it should be the pinnacle of parenting. I mean, I certainly know I've heard lots of people talk about you shouldn't be your kid's friend. And I always think, why? Why would you not be your kid's friend? You should be like one of their best friends.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they're still, you know, I still have best friends, and I respect them and treat them, you know, so I kind of agree with that too. I think we have a healthy mix. You know, she does respect me and will listen to me. She is a really good kid. So I'm blessed with that. And
well, like you said, it's kind of a two-sided coin. Obviously, we want to have a positive, open, warm communication with our kids, but discipline also does need to be consistent. So, you know, we want to let our yes be yes and our no be no, set appropriate rules, follow through on consequences, you know, be caring, not hostile about those consequences. What kind of approach have you taken with discipline?
Luckily, I don't really have to discipline her much. She's usually like, have I ever been grounded? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm like, keep it up and maybe, you know. But she is a very good kid. Honestly, I don't have to discipline her too much. When we do, she, I think, knows when she does something wrong or not. And I think maybe sometimes I think beats herself up a little bit more than she should over something. So I I haven't come across anything that has had to really punish her or deal with anything like that. One time she lied about something, and we had a talk about that. And to my knowledge, she hasn't before. We've had talks about those things, but I mean, if I tell her she has to clean her room, she cleans her room. I mean, she's respectful to me. So at this point in her life, we haven't really, aside from the toddler stage of, you know, don't touch this little timeout stuff, we're not there yet. So I'm hoping it continues on. But,
I wouldn't say you're not there yet, because that doesn't mean you're necessarily ever going to be there. I mean, you're dealing with situations. You're not getting to the point where you feel like a punishment is necessary because you're talking through the issues. That reminds me of something I heard somebody say recently. They were talking about how their parents, when they were growing up, would give them choices about what their consequence was going to be for something. And so it sounded to me like they would actually just sit down with them and say, okay, you know, you've done this thing. It's wrong. It's not okay. You know, I don't know what the choices were, but, you know, there were choices given as to, you know, what would be the discipline or the consequence for that action. And they would talk through it. And so, you know, consequence or punishment or not, you know, just the talking through it, I think is what really makes the difference for kids.
And I think even too, sometimes I remember being a child and doing something wrong, and whether my mom put me in timeout or not for it, just the feeling of like, oh, I did something wrong, and the guilt and all the stuff that came with it was kind of like punishment enough to not do it again. So we haven't had anything come up, and I feel like her and I can always have a conversation on there. And when we get to that point, if we do, hopefully we don't, and we'll find something that matches whatever it is that is going on, and that sort of thing. So again, we're just like super open and talk about a lot. So I think we have a great relationship, and it's getting better. I really, honestly, the only things that I find myself ever yelling at is like, hurry up, get your stuff, let's get out the door. I told you to grab this, quit playing with Play-Doh while we're doing this, like stuff like that. She gets sidetracked and whatever. But I mean, like, that's what I'm yelling about.
Yeah.
Or like, I told you to put your mask in your bag, Mom, well, you shouldn't have got it out there, and whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever, so we banter back and forth together. So she's pretty mature for her age, and so we have fun.
Well, that's good. That's awesome. I love it. So now I know your daughter isn't an adolescent yet, but for those with teens, there are some unique cautions and considerations. And one, I think, is just stay in touch with them. Keep an eye on them. And I don't mean like obtrusively or controlling, but just checking in with them discreetly and be caring and concerned about their life and interested in their life. And I think that when parents know what their teens are doing and who they're hanging out with, they just tend to be less likely to have behavior problems, whether that's before, during, or after a divorce, or even if there isn't a divorce. This just is, I guess, maybe kind of common sense. They're not going to be seeking that relief that substances might be, promising, and they're going to be able to focus at school and therefore have a better academic, experience.
Yeah. And so I didn't come from a divorced family, but in things that happened to me that my parents did to me when I was younger, or the way their parenting style was, I remember that so much, and how negatively it impacted me, to where I am the complete opposite to my daughter, that I was there. So I try and really, when we're going through things, to put myself in her shoes and go, okay, like, hey, when she was yelling or acting snooty, going, okay, like, what's going on? I'm like, wow, she's going through all this stuff. I'm like, no wonder. Or I'm like, how would I feel like if I was, if my mom was yelling at me like that? Like, how would that make me feel? And so I really just try and put myself back in that kid's shoes and like think of like how I felt when that was going on, or like the confusion, or just really, I think we forget sometimes like how we felt when we were that age. And like, all the things that you did deal with. And it's like, when those little things, when I think that's just like probably the best help that it's been for me, no matter what the situation is, whether it's from divorce and co-parenting going wrong, or I mean, no matter what the situation is, as long as you can like just put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a minute and like just kind of think from their point of view, I think that it really just is a good step back to like go ahead and make a decision on how you want to handle that situation. So that's probably like the best advice that I would give somebody as far as parenting, going through divorce, and just any hard situations, no matter what it is, whether it's a good divorce, a bad divorce, anything, just knowing that there's extra feelings involved, more so not having mom and dad in the same home or something like that, for them, that to give some grace and know that, hey, like, they're going through a rough time. I'm not going to lay on them too hard or something. I don't know.
A good rule of thumb might be listen more and talk less.
Right.
Because you're really, really emotional yourself, and you may say things that you regret, but you can't do that if you're listening.
Right. Yep. Yep, for sure.
So let's talk about empowering our kids. I think that too many parents are focused on keeping their kids in line, controlling them, telling them what to do, trying to make them, be seen and not heard. Don't cause me trouble because I'm busy, and stressed myself. And obviously the far better approach to parenting is to to empower your kids to trust their own ability to deal with the changes of divorce well. Praise them, praise, help them not to see themselves as helpless victims through this, but to teach them that although divorce is obviously difficult, as are many things in life, that they have the mental strength to handle this and to know what they need and what they want and to communicate well, to, do the things they need to do with confidence. And I'm certain that you've had to deal with this with your daughter. So talk a little bit about that.
Gosh, I feel like it kind of goes with exactly kind of how I do everything else in communication and empowering and positive. And, I think some of the things when I hear her say things to me like, you should have done this, or it's my fault, or it's not my fault, or, so-and-so did this at my school, that's why I had a bad day. When I find hearing things that are like the victim role, I guess, I just let her know that she has a choice and that she can choose and she's in control. Those things, I think just empowering her in that sort of way and speaking positive in everything, mom and dad love you. I love you. You're smart. You're brave. You're caring. You have a great heart. You're beautiful. All of those things. I'm huge on that. Like, she probably hates that how many times I say I love you in a day, because it's like ridiculous. Sometimes I'm all like, okay, Erica, settle down now.
You've made a great point, and that is just that, like you've said many times during our conversation in different ways, you want to focus on them and their needs and care about them. And really what you're talking about is teaching them coping skills, I think. And you've mentioned several different things that, in ways that you have helped her learn how to cope with whatever's going wrong.
Be independent. I've always thought of this from like day one of her being born. Like, if I were to die anytime, like, I want to know that like she can completely take care of herself, that she doesn't rely on other people for things, for, making herself feel better, that she knows that she can take control of her feelings and her life and make decisions. And I mean, heck, that she knows how to feed herself. I mean, just regular life skills, obviously, in that as well. But just to know that she's taken care of and I didn't leave her stranded. So that's just like a huge thing, is independence. And I want her to have that. So I let her do those things and I let her figure out stuff. And not that I'm hands off, I step in when needed and try and just guide her, because I know, just from dealing with things that I dealt with as a child and depression. And, just the other day she asked me what depression was, because her dad deals with that. And she was like, Mom, hey, what is that? And, kind of explained. And I said, I used to be. And I said, different, kind of went into that and went in to say that I'm, making changes. It's a all aspects of your life type thing. Sorry.
I think you're talking about coping skills.
Yeah. Like. I just kind of went on a ramble there, and then I was like, okay, where am I going?
Where am I even going with this? We all deal with people in life, on social media, in public, that do not have problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, conflict management skills, boundaries, managing their thoughts and feelings and behaviors in healthy ways. There are a lot of people that have made it into adulthood without that. And your daughter isn't going to be one of them. And that's really what the goal needs to be for people as they're going through divorce, is to use the divorce as a teaching tool of, yes, it sucks. It really does. And it's hard, and that's okay. And cry when you need to cry, and hit your pillow when you need to hit your pillow, and, whatever, just helping them to recognize that they can solve problems and they can think critically for themselves, and they can deal with conflict without being angry or hateful or hostile. They can have boundaries. They don't have to let people in their life or in their mind that are hurtful to them. Just learning how to manage your thoughts and feelings is huge. I mean, it would change the world if everyone parented this way. It really would.
Well, in every aspect of life too, because everybody has their suck, whether it's a divorce or not a divorce, still all of those things still apply. And so I just try and remember that.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Insanely.
Yeah, exactly. And the last thing I really want to say about this is that, sometimes things are going to just feel unmanageable, and that's normal, and there is help. And so there's really no shame in seeking out a qualified mental health professional if you need to ease you and your child through this major life transition. In fact, what is a shame is choosing not to when it's really needed. So I just want to thank you again, Erica, for being here. This has been a great conversation. I always appreciate people sharing their stories and just exploring how to raise great kids as we go through divorce. Listeners, I hope this was helpful for you today. I hope you feel encouraged on your journey. Thank you again for tuning in each week to talk about what matters for you in and after your divorce. And remember, you don't have to be an expert on this. Just admit where and when you need help, and realize that you are going to be vulnerable during your divorce. That's why divorce coaches like myself do what we do, because you don't have to do divorce alone. So as you think about ways to apply what we talked about today, I want you to ask yourself, what's one thing that I can do differently going forward from this conversation today? And then please just find Starting Over Stronger on Facebook, Instagram at S.O.S Divorce Coach Annie, and like, share, and subscribe everywhere you find us. It does matter. Anyone you know going through divorce needs this information and encouragement, and your 5-star ratings and reviews make a very big difference to how many women can find us when they need us. So thank you again for tuning in. We'll be back next week with more help during your divorce and hope as you are starting over stronger. See you next time.